What's up, Carolina fans? This is Phil Harris here at the Ruckin Roosters Show, and we've got a very, very special guest this time around. We are speaking with Roger LeCroy. Roger, how the heck are you?
Hanging in there. I told you a little earlier, I came down with a bug last night. I was at my son's wrestling match,
Uh-huh.
and right at the end, I started getting chills, and I'm like, man, this is gonna be awful. But
Yeah.
made it through this morning. My voice doesn't sound too great. When I thought about coming on the show, I thought about, well, I'm gonna have a nice glass of bourbon sitting in front of me and take a glass, have a sip of bourbon throughout the thing.
Yep.
Now I'm down to having tea, medicated. So, but hanging in there otherwise.
I
Looking forward to this.
appreciate you playing hurt here. We talked off air that I've got an eye issue right now. I'm wearing glasses, which is extremely rare. I feel like I'm one of the Hanson brothers from Slapstick because I got my Carolina Rugby jersey on right now. But yeah, we're both playing hurt, so I appreciate you being on here for sure. Let's get right into it. Where are you from originally?
So I'm from Walkersville, Maryland.
Okay.
And Walkersville is a small town just outside of Frederick.
Mhm.
Not too many people have heard of Frederick,
Mhm.
but it is the second largest city in the state of Maryland behind Baltimore.
Wow.
So
Okay.
where you have some other metropolitan areas, they're broken out by other towns and
Mhm.
separated. Frederick itself is, it's quite a ways behind Baltimore, but there's no other city in Maryland that, I don't think comes close to Frederick in terms of population. So yeah, I'm there. Actually, I live maybe 6 miles from there now. 6 miles
Okay.
from where I grew up in my home or my house.
Nice.
After Carolina, I bounced around a little bit. Moved to Charlotte. Actually played rugby up there for 2 or 3 seasons.
Mhm.
My job moved me back to Columbia. Played with Old Gray a little bit there, and then moved up to Greenville for 6 years, 7 years, and played for the Griffins up there.
Mhm.
Job market caught me. This is right around 9/11,
Okay.
and I was doing sales, and my territory just crashed. And when it was time to find another job, there was just nothing out there. And a
Mhm.
buddy of mine, who I didn't grow up with, but know him from late high school, and turned out we were in each other's weddings, type of thing. He was in IT and said, "What do you know about IT?" I said, "Well, I can start a computer." And he said, "Well, I need people entry level." And so I started a second career. My wife was on board with it, so we moved up here and more or less been here ever since.
Okay.
Now we live
Wow.
in a little town called Newmarket, which is about the same size as Walkersville, but and just outside of Frederick.
Very cool. So it's nice that you're kinda in your hometown area there, back where you started. But let's talk about your origin story with rugby. How did you find rugby initially?
Actually, again, I think it's another interesting story. So when I graduated from Walkersville, I played football there. Lettered in football, lettered in baseball.
Mhm.
Played 2 years of basketball. You notice I didn't get a letter there. But when you're 5'8", pretty soon, you start getting picked over.
Right.
Um, but I thought I could play football at the next level. I mean, again, and there's really no schools around here within at least an hour that has a football team, and that
Mhm.
would be University of Maryland, Towson State, or Towson State at the time, now Towson University.
Yep.
And a buddy of mine was playing soccer up at Slippery Rock University, which is in Western Pennsylvania,
Okay.
D2 school. Thought I could go up there and give it a shot, and I started classes. Thought I'd at least go look at the team and maybe walk on in the spring.
Mhm.
And the practice I went to, as I'm approaching the practice field, the team comes running by, and this is the mid '80s. The roid rage was at its biggest, and
Right.
these guys were freaking huge. I mean, they were massive, and I was like, "Dad gum," these guys. And I finally saw some guys that were smaller,
Mhm.
but the kicker came running by me, and he was bigger than me. So I'm like, "Okay,
Wow.
this ain't gonna work out." So my next semester, my second semester of my freshman year, there was a guy on my floor that played rugby. He was a prop. I started telling him, I was like, "Look, man, think about what do you think about rugby?
Mhm.
Think about going out. I see some guys around here that are my size. I hear it's like football." And he kind of talked me out of it. Basically, he's like, "Oh yeah, big, lots of big hits. You'll get hit by guys like me." And so kind of
Right.
dissuaded me. But going back into my sophomore year, me and another buddy of mine, Tony Smith, kind of looked at it and said, "You know what? Let's give it a shot and see what's about." And so we went to the practice field, and that's how we started to get to rugby. And the guys basically were really cool. And one of the things that stuck to me to this day, they kept saying, "Don't quit until your second game. Last through 2 games, and then if it's not for you, it's not for you. We
Right.
understand, but don't quit too soon." And stuck it out, and I played my last matches at 50.
Is
That's
wow,
crazy.
incredible, man. I love these origin stories with rugby, man, because it really changes people's lives. Those little moments like that,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna go out and do this," where I was kinda discouraged from it initially, but, I talked to someone else, and I'm gonna make this commitment to kinda go out there and just see how it goes, and then 50, you're at 50, you're finally doing your last game. I mean, that's incredible right there.
Yes, because my body wore out, and I would still play if I could.
Of
Just the
course, yeah.
body's not there anymore, and neither is the fitness now. But that was before 50
Yep,
or
yep,
after 50
yep.
when I decided to stop. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Tony and I going together, I probably wouldn't have shown up
Mhm,
to do it. And so he played through Slippery Rock. He went to grad school, mostly somewhere in Indiana, and then came back to Frederick. And at that time, Frederick had finally gotten a men's team, and he
mhm.
played here for a few years and then stopped. Again, it's back probably late 90s, mid late 90s.
Gotcha. Any individual or team, achievements at that time that you're proud of around that time frame?
No, well, I played B side with
Yep,
them,
me
and I was
too.
just about to crack the A side lineup. The scrum half ahead of me, I played scrum half mostly in college. The scrum half ahead of me was all union select, and it was really cool because they lined us all up and kind of across the 22, and the captains had these letters, these envelopes,
Mhm.
and started calling out people. These are the envelopes to be go to select side, and they would call out their names. And the guy ahead of me got one, and I'm like, I want one of those. What I got to do to get one of those?
Yep.
But I played there for 3 semesters, 3 seasons, and it just Slippery Rock and me weren't a terribly good fit. I don't like cold weather. Go figure. We're expecting snow here on Saturday.
Same here.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, right. And I was like, okay, just a small town at the time. The coal mining industry was shutting down. Western Pennsylvania now has a lot of its drug issues, but before that, they had coal mines that were shutting down.
Mhm.
Um, and these kids were up there on shoestring budgets. I mean, bad shoestring budgets. And so I was like, man, I just need another place where I can feel kind of just warmer. Know that the return on investment on the graduation will go a lot further.
Mhm.
And actually, when I was looking, and I love telling the story because it relates to South Carolina.
Mhm.
Back in those days, before there was internet,
Yeah.
we had catalogs, and the main catalog on the East Coast was Matt Godek.
Oh,
Matt
yeah.
Godek, who is a Carolina alum. I
Yes.
didn't know that,
Yep.
but Matt Godek. I mean, literally, it's like a Christmas story when Ralphie gets his decoder ring. You check the mailbox every day. All of a sudden, it comes in, and you just run to the bathroom, so you look like through 20 pages of
Yep.
things. And you'd always have the top rugby team jerseys in there. Life, Navy, Army
Mhm.
at the time was big. Palmer Chiropractic, I don't think isn't going anymore, but they were huge at the time.
Mhm.
Life and South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, dang, those boys must be good. And I don't, I'm not gonna be a chiropractor. I'm not gonna go to the West Coast.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I'm not Navy material. Um, and so, I talked to some other people. Went down to look at the school during a football weekend, and
Nice.
from Slippery Rock, where when I was there, they banned tailgating, which actually was a pretty good story. I told you I got these stories.
A lot of
Um,
stories, yeah.
they banned, to going down to South Carolina, and it's on. You just feel the buzz across the horseshoe
Mhm.
over by the student union. And like, man, I got to go here. So that's how I found South Carolina. But
Nice.
yeah, going back to Slippery Rock just real quick, the rugby pitch was right next to the football stadium,
Mhm.
and so the rugby would start at like 12:30. Football game started at 1. All the
Okay.
kids would come tailgate, and so we'd have
Yep.
about 150, 200 kids on the sidelines tailgating and drinking beer, watching the rugby game. So it got loud.
That's pretty
And I
cool.
said I played B side. Well, they go to the game. Slippery Rock wasn't good those years. They come back at halftime and keep drinking, and all they were looking for were great runs and big hits.
Of
And
course.
I was playing wing at the time. So our friends will laugh about that, but I was shifty. I
Yep.
was quick. I wasn't top end fast. And so I'd be on the sidelines, and they're all talking to me. I'm talking to them on the sidelines. They're yelling at me to pay attention. I'm paying
Mhm.
attention. Then my second semester, I had a chance to go into scrum half, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm never leaving scrum half. I love it. So, but anyway, going back to the South Carolina, that's how I found South Carolina.
Incredible.
Um, What was your question?
So we were just on. Well, the next question is actually about favorite moments in a Carolina jersey. That kind of leads us in. So you were a transfer student just like me, came from Slippery Rock, completely different environment from Slippery Rock in Pennsylvania to South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, big boy football, all of that sort of stuff. So you get integrated into Carolina rugby. What's your favorite moment in a Carolina jersey?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we were a 500 team, just above 500 every season. Again, rugby back then, there were very few areas that had youth rugby and brought up through the system. They had a rugby program in DC, but I never knew about it.
Right.
And so I had played for 2.5 years. I took it after my time at Slippery Rock. I took a year off and worked and found basically a good old boy rugby club in a town called Hagerstown, Maryland, which is about 40 minutes away. And what those guys didn't know about rugby, they knew about hitting and drinking beer. So it was good. It was a good gap year. But I came down and, I remember my first practice just going out and I just didn't have any expectations. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to come in and play. I just want to come in and see where I can fit. And we were kind of standing in a circle, passing the ball around. I get a ball, I pass it. Smolka looks at me and says, "You're a scrum half, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I guess why?" He said, "You've got a natural pass." And so, that was my first meeting with Jeff Smolka. His last semester was my first semester.
Okay.
And John Roberts had just been there for about a year. Lau Richards was just showing up. And we basically kind of gravitated towards each other because we all transferred in. We're all a little bit older. And, to this day, we're still the best of friends. But my best memories, I mean, obviously, we only beat Clemson one time. And that was in the Palmetto tournament. And we were down there, and it was in Columbia. It was at the minor league baseball stadium. And for some reason, because every year, hated those guys. They would show up at our field. They were the prototypical rugby team. Door would open, cans would come out of the bottom, smoke would roll out of the top, and they'd come and kick our ass. And it pissed me off to no end. Sorry. And
you're good.
So we finally had to lead on them, and I think we were only up by score. And again, back then, tries were only worth 4 points. Back in my day,
back in the day,
left and in lineouts, and tries were worth 4 points. And I went over to Chris Murphy, who was our captain. I said, "Murph, I got hit, and my vision was blurry. And I was kind of like loopy." And I said, "Dude, I can't. I'm seeing double vision right now. I need to be pulled." And he said, "Close an F and I. You're not coming out of the game." Best decision he ever made for me. So stayed in. We won. It was a fantastic time.
Incredible. Things were a little different back then in regards to that sort of stuff, for sure.
But we never advanced to playoffs. I made select side both my years at Carolina. But that, it was good. I had a chance to be looked at for a touring side over in England or Europe. And Jim Cross, who was the coach of Old Grey at the time, came to me and said, "I talked to some guys and they're interested in seeing what you got at the select side weekend to see what we can do, maybe take you on a touring side." I'm like, "Whoa, really?" And Thursday before that weekend, I go running around and I messed up my hamstring. So I'm already, I'm not fast to begin with, and now I'm like half speed at that.
Right.
But the coach that showed up to coach us was from Clemson, and he took his whole team and played his whole team the whole friggin' weekend.
Of course.
So, which kind of helped me because I couldn't really run anyway. I've been a bad showing. I played a little bit. Obviously didn't work out. But those also when I think it was my last semester, I can't remember. Excuse me.
You're good.
Jim had Old Grey going to the East Coast finals. Back then for Division II, they only had finals like segmented. I guess Midwest, Central West, or Central, Midwest, and Western were your four brackets. And they for Division II, you just see who won your slice. And it was down in Orlando, and he came to me and said, myself, Murphy, and said, "Hey, you want to you guys want to come play for us? We could use you." I'm like, "Sure." And he slotted me in, and we won our preliminary 2 matches, and then we got to go down to Orlando, and it was a great experience. I mean, I ended up playing most of that time. Afterwards, Cross was coming after. Good story coming up. Cross was coming after me and saying, "If you come up here, we can get you looks at another level." And I didn't know what to do. One night we're at a party, and I pulled Murph aside. And I said, dude, look, I don't know what to do. I got to talk to you. And Chris was, like, what's up? And I told him the story. I said, he's coming after me to see if I want to go to the next level. I don't know what to do. And Murphy said, look, understand why you're coming down here. And if your goal is to get better at rugby, then you should probably go over to Old Gray. If it's to find camaraderie with this team, you should probably stay. But I can tell you, you can't do both. If you go there, you're there. You're not going to be with, you can't come back here.
Right.
And I thought about it and really, I love the camaraderie. I didn't want to lose the friendships, which actually probably alludes to, questions down the road. But that, just sage words that people probably don't remember that stick with you.
Yeah, for sure. It's those little moments where, you've got a fork in the road and you probably feel like you made the right choice in terms of picking camaraderie over, competition and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's why we're talking right now, you and I. Let's move over to, With You Weekend was a couple weeks back. You were there. I was there. Fantastic event as always. Just overall thoughts on the event as an alum coming back to it.
To me, it's on point.
Yeah.
I did like the last couple where we had video games tossed in. Excuse me. It's always a good time to have video games tossed into your drinking events. But the way they have it locked down with, formal or just gatherings on Friday and Saturday were great. John has, the current team being more sociable than they have in the past.
Yeah.
And, those guys are a lot of fun. And they're starting to see that, we're not so bad either for being old dudes.
Right.
And so, it's fun. And I mean, they come hang with us. I mean, next thing you know, we're buying them beers. Of course, if they're old enough.
If they're legally able to drink, yes. Yeah.
Of course. But it's I think we're doing a really good job. I don't want a formal reunion, a sit down dinner. That's not me. I don't want to get dressed up. I want to, I want to stand up, have drinks, go socialize with people. This year bringing in the parents was actually an unexpectedly great idea.
Absolutely.
I guess we still look at parents as parents, but when we got there, a lot of those parents were younger than we were.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun just hanging out, and the guys going, "You guys come here every year?" They're like, "Yeah." Without your wives? Yeah. And you see some of the guys going, "How can I swing this?" So I think what we have going on right now is great. I think what we should, my opinion, I know I haven't hit you up, but I've hit some of the others, is maybe tiering the pricing. Pricing's a little steep.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is, I'm in my 50s. I'm gearing up for college tuition and retirement. Saying that, you have to fork over a certain amount of money really is not, a big deal. But to some of these kids, I mean, if I was paying this kind of money when I was in my 20s, I wouldn't be able to go.
Right.
I was barely making ends meet. And I know that, the income is higher now for kids getting out of school, especially for most majors, but so is housing, so is living.
Yeah, expenses are higher for sure.
Right, your expenses are higher. Yeah. So that would be one thing I would say, to look into. But the format of it is brilliant. And getting more people there you don't see in a while is great. Seeing people that just kind of pop in that you haven't seen for ages is always a good thing.
I agree 1,000%. To see Brad Mueller there, that was really, really special for me because I had heard that he was an alum for us and stuff like that. And I know that he would share our post on Twitter and stuff like that from time to time, but to see him in person, I was just blown away by that. And of course he came on the show, which was fantastic. So yeah, that was really, really cool. Let's talk about
and if he wasn't listening, the stories I could share. He's a knucklehead like the rest of us.
Oh yes.
Actually one kind of funny story. When he was I think freshman, his first season playing rugby, he was living in Bates' house.
Yep.
With he was in one of those rooms with two or three other roommates.
Okay.
And they're sitting there. We show up as myself, Lyle, Chris Murphy, and Joe Gardenia, and just knocked on the door. I think he said, "Come over for some beers." We get there, and he's kind of fidgety. Says, "Look, man, I'm sorry, but we were invited to this party. We're going to go to this party, but you're welcome to stay here and watch TV and whatever." So we're like, "Okay." And so he and his roommates leave, and the door shuts. And in about 5 seconds, Joe and Lyle just start giggling. And Murphy and I are looking over like, "What are you laughing about?"
Yeah.
And one of them gets up, and then the other gets up, and they both go to the kitchen. And we go to the kitchen. And when Brad came home, he said he opened up his cabinets and said, "I deserve this." So yeah, that's a good wholesome Brad story.
There we go. Love that. I was actually an RA at Bates House, so you brought back some memories just mentioning
Oh,
Bates House there. So there you go. Let's talk about Major League Rugby for a second. I know
ooh,
that we talked about Old Glory DC. They're your team, obviously
yep,
be there in Maryland. We talked about them during With You weekend. I do a little podcast for the Free Jacks. No
right.
big deal, but what's your overall feelings about MLR and going into 2024 here, and just are you excited about the new season?
Um, excited is not the word, but 2 years ago, Old Glory may have won 2 games, 3 games.
Hmm.
Last season, they made a surprising run, got to the playoffs, and lost in the semifinals to your Free Jacks.
Yep.
And it kind of came out of nowhere. And so there's a lot to build off of.
Yep.
And it's more, I guess, maybe anticipation
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
seeing what kind of team we're going to bring back. Because
Yep.
one year we're here, the next season we're up here.
Hmm.
Now, where are we going to go? We're going to take this and get to the next level. We're going to
Yep.
still compete at this level, or does it
Hmm.
drop off again?
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm really interested. I know, when you and I had gone back and forth talking about the folding, the 2 clubs that folded here recently,
Yep.
the one in New York and the others in Toronto,
Yep.
and what they can learn from that. I don't know how the Free Jacks are doing. Old Glory is led by I'm gonna call them 2 titans of industry. Pat Shee, who was an
Mhm.
Eagle in the 80s and owns a ton of car dealerships around DC.
Yep.
And Chris Dunleavy, who I played old boys rugby with here in DC,
Mhm.
which prolonged my career from 35 to 50. And and Chris has owned like this consulting firm, program management consulting firm for about, I don't know, 20, 30 years.
Mhm.
And so he's doing fine. But they have a good business head.
Yep.
And it's tough. And I know, this season they'll be in their 3rd different stadium since they started 5
Yeah.
seasons ago.
That's tough. Yep.
It's tough, but I'm sure, all the pitches are nice.
Mhm.
Where they're playing this season is where they played the CRC sevens last year. And it was fantastic facility. And so, and the Washington Spirit women's Major League Rugby team, they used to play there, but now they're playing down in Audi Field, which is where DC United plays.
Yes.
So they're open, and it's closer for me, so I'm excited.
That'll be
But
good.
we'll see. Like I said, I'm anticipating. I'm hoping. The thing I don't like about MLR, and I know you can attest to this, is it starts in February,
Yeah.
and it's blazes cold, man.
Mhm. It is.
The
Yep.
rugby game. So
It's
not until the spring is when you really start, getting more into the team and showing up.
100%. It starts now in the beginning of March. But with the Free Jacks having their first home game in the second round, we anticipate that's probably going to be a blizzard, as it has been the past 2 years. Well,
Yeah,
one year we had sideways rain, and the other year we did have quite a bit of flurries and stuff like that. There was some snow accumulation, but not much. So I'm just anticipating a foot of snow at some point for
right.
that first home game. But it kind of is what it is. You either get that or you get 5 away games to start out the season if you're a Northeast team because the weather's so terrible,
I
right?
mean,
They've
it
had
might
that
be
in
what it
previous
takes to. It
seasons.
might be what
Yeah,
it takes to fill the stands.
absolutely. Yep.
And I mean, DC United fights that, or Old Glory fights that battle too.
Yep, of
Um,
course. Yep.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I'm excited. 2024, we're just right around the corner in terms of kickoff. So, we're doing a bunch of preseason stuff for my show with regard to the Free Jacks. I was just posting right before we went live, all kind of stuff. It's really, really
yeah,
exciting. We're I think it's the 7th year of the league overall, and the Free Jacks have been around for like 5 seasons at this point. So,
right.
I'm just really, really excited to get this thing going. Obviously, with losing
Sure.
2 teams like that, it's unfortunate, but the strong will survive. And I think Old Glory claims to be their ownership group claims to be the most commercially successful organization in MLR. So
Really
that's
good.
exciting for you.
Yeah.
They've put themselves in a really good position. They've had some venue struggles, as we've talked about, and some struggles competitively. But I
Mhm.
think their team is going to be really, really good this year. They've brought in some good guys and retained some good
Good.
players as well. So I anticipate they're going to be in that conversation
Good.
for a playoff spot. I mean, there's 8 teams that are going to make the playoffs out of
Oh,
11.
oh,
So if you're
geez.
not, if yeah, it's kind of silly, but if they're in that conversation, might as well win the whole thing. If you get
Right.
into the playoffs, you might as well win it. So
Right.
we'll see how it all shakes out. But let's
And
switch.
Old
Go
Glory
ahead.
does a lot with the youth. They get out to the
Yes.
youth organizations
Hmm.
and do clinics, and become personable. And you know what that does? It gets those kids to want to go to the games,
Yep.
gets their parents to take them to the games. Now
That's
you've
right.
got, you know, 2, 3, 4 tickets you're buying. And it's brilliant. I mean, you know, I hope the Free Jacks are doing it. I hope everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
It's great to get out in the community. I know John does that
Organizations.
with his Rent a Wrestler thing, you
Oh,
know,
yep.
at USC,
Rent a runner.
where
Yep.
they take orders and basically they take orders to do odd jobs around people's houses,
Mm-hmm.
and he sends out rugby guys,
Yep.
and they go and they get to know the community members. Next thing you know, those community members are asking about them. They're asking about the games.
Yep.
I know John has said that a couple showed up, and that's what it's all about. You know, getting to know the community.
100%. You know, things that are community-based driven are going to be more successful in the long run because you're building up. You've got people that
Mhm.
are getting invested in the team. So the Free Jacks definitely been doing that since the beginning, and it has played dividends. You know, this model is it's not something that they're inventing. It's just something that they're using, and it's tried and true. You get kids involved. You get, you know, youth involved, and the
Right?
parents come. As you're
Mhm.
saying, it's kind of like that minor league baseball mentality. Get kids
Good
through the
point.
door. Their parents have to come. They're going to buy stuff. You know, that's all of that stuff is going to work in the end. We just got to kind of give it time. And, you know,
Yeah.
obviously there's going to be some shakiness with leagues that are in their infancy, like MLR is.
Right.
But let's get back to Carolina rugby here real quick.
Sorry about that.
You know, no big deal, man. You know, I can talk about MLR all day long, but that is not the purpose of this show. What is your impressions of the program right now for Carolina rugby?
I really enjoy what John's been doing.
Yeah.
And I enjoy seeing the character of the players he's getting,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and, you know, he's getting high character players that are good rugby players. Obviously they're coming in and they're replacing the juniors and seniors, you know, that have gone out the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly seeing freshmen and sophomore that are, you know, dotted into the lineup. It's fantastic. You know, he's doing it without, you know, a lot of coaching. He's got some good quality coaches, but for a team of 60 guys, you know, he needs a few more coaches. You know, it's just unfortunate the money's not there to kind of make it worth their time. You know, but I think he's doing really good. I hope the recruiting keeps up. I know he's been going on recruiting drives. You know, John is magic with parents. He's a great guy. He's a great guy to get to know. You know, I know it's coming up, but I coached with him a couple years at Furman University when it was just getting started, and it used to drive me nuts because I'm a guy that has to remove obstacles to get to the goal. John is a vision guy, and John would just say, "Oh no, it'll be okay. No, we'll have that. You know, it'll be fine." I'm like, John, no, we got to take care of this, and this before we get. No, it'll be fine. And pissed me off because he'd always be right.
Yeah, incredible. I mean,
I'm happy for him, but you know, I had this burning, you know, down the side. I just want to. I told you so, but it never happened.
I got to tell you, man, like, you know, the transformation of this program with John taking over and steering the ship is really, really impressive to watch. And, you know, you have this unique perspective having played with him, but also coached under him at Furman. He was very, very successful there, obviously, multinational champion at the small college level. You know, you've already talked about how him, you know, being the head of this program has made things better, and obviously his impact on this program. So, you know, I just continue to see this program getting better and better, and we kind of expect that. I think our minimum expectations should increase with him being steering the ship here with Carolina Rugby. I want us to be a national powerhouse at this level, and I think we're well on our way to doing that for sure.
And well, I mean, conversely, I don't think we need to be a national power. I think we need to contend every year. I mean, if that makes you a national power, then yes. You
I
know,
think that's
if you
fair.
want to win it all, that starts bringing in division and it starts dividing the team. If you're playing for a common goal to do as best as you can and get better every day, which I think these guys are doing, so you know, you fall off short, but you win a lot more games than you lose. You make the best friends you ever made. Because John is surrounding your kid with all these other quality kids.
Yes.
And you know, I mean, I luck boxed my way into that in the 80s with the friends that I made. And we still keep in touch today. Like I said, we can still go to Old Boys. We'll meet. Last year, there was 6 or 7 of us that met at the CRC 7s. You know, I'd love to win. I'd love to see him win it. You know, nobody would be happier. But realistically, you know, these guys are, you know, these Arkansas States, Cal Berkeley's, they're recruiting overseas. You know, we're getting the overseas guys, but they're getting, you know, they're the Alabamas. You know, I think right now we're probably the Texas. You know, I'm trying to think who was down. You know, well, I can't really call it Georgia, maybe Florida State.
There you go. Okay.
Georgia
I can live with that. Yeah. Let's leave Georgia out of it.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, my vision of like being a national powerhouse is being in the conversation for championships, not necessarily winning everything a year. That's that would be incredible. That's consistency is very, very hard.
Yeah.
Winning championships over and over again is extremely difficult. So I wouldn't expect that of our program. I just expect us to be in the conversation year in and year out, and I think we've done that pretty well with John leading the ship.
Right. I love that we're making the CRC sevens, these national rugby tournaments.
Exactly.
We've done okay. We haven't done, we haven't gone far in them, but to get us there and to get our name recognition out there, if I was a recruit, I see them at the door. Well, they need me to get to this next level, and hopefully, they make the call and come down and take a look at the school.
Yep.
And nowadays the school sells itself.
For sure. I mean, gorgeous university, gorgeous weather, gorgeous people that go here, right? So,
let me in.
So yeah, the school kind of sells itself, and the rugby team is also starting to sell itself as well. Like I've always said, with our top 3 big major programs at Carolina, just make the postseason.
Right.
Get to a bowl game, get to the tournament, and I think that should be the goal of the rugby team as well. Okay, I'm also the chairman. I don't just do this show, and I'm not just on the board. I'm also the chairman of the Carolina Rugby Hall of Fame Committee, and we're tasked with selecting our first Hall of Fame class coming up here in April. So I wanted to ask you, from your era, do you think anybody is deserving of a Garnet jacket, and why?
Yeah. I mean, athletically, the only guy that I played with at the time that was deserving of it was Rob Balmer. He he was just, his physique was unbelievable. He was just Greek god in a redneck's body. But he would deserve it, on playing ability. And now that he's come back and been in the board of trustees for so long, now we're looking at what's your life work. And, of course, when that comes up, you got to look at John Roberts.
Yes.
What he did starting with nothing really and going to Furman and building that up to the power he did was really impressive. And he really cut his, chops. I can't think of the term.
Teeth.
Learning the trade of growing a rugby team at Furman. And he had a lot of support there. He knows how to garner that support, behind the doors. And that's what he's been doing at Carolina. And again, it was surprising to me on how well, because when I was at Carolina, none of our parents knew the coach. Now all the parents know the coach. And that was his purpose, was to get to know them. Because he said, if they get to know me and know that I'm for the good of their son, they're going to help out more than they probably would normally.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, rugby's not cheap these days.
Oh,
and they're still, and they're still able to afford, their parents that are like, you're going to go all the way to Maryland. Here's money for a charter bus, as opposed to, piling 5 guys into a car and your back end is down, riding down to Charleston and back. Yeah. So John has really done well there. I do want to say one thing about him and Furman. So when I came on board, as soon as he started, he said, they want to start a girls team. Why don't you coach the girls team? And I said, dude, I can't coach the girls team until I'm married. He said, why? I said, because I'm going to go to a party one night and you're going to have a lot of explaining to do the next day.
Oh boy.
I don't want, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting engaged to my now wife and, in the other room and, told him I'd do it. And we ended up winning the first trophy at Furman. We came in second place in a 7th tournament in Columbia. And it was his first trophy. I don't know if I know at the time he was really gritting his teeth because he wasn't that honored. So that's my little claim to fame at Furman.
There you go. Got a trophy that you can kind of half credit for yourself there.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. We're kind of nearing the end here, Roger. It's been fantastic having you on here, but I've got one final overall question for you. If there's a high school or, like us, transfer student out there that are watching this, what would you say to them about coming to Carolina and playing rugby as a Gamecock?
I mean, again, first, right now, I think the school sells itself. It's a great school, great campus, it's beautiful.
Yep.
Girls are top notch. Is what it is.
Yeah.
But they'll come down and play some really good rugby. It looks like, from talking to the guys, they all do so much stuff together. They have a bond, and I hope that bond carries over. And I really hope it carries over to where they, after they get out of college, they still want to play rugby, because I don't know that that's really a thing. A lot of kids stop playing rugby after they graduate,
Right.
but it's a networking tool. You go to another school, or you get a job in another city, you don't know anybody, you go for the rugby team and you're drinking beers with a dozen guys on a Friday night.
That's right.
Instead of sitting at home. You're out and about, and these are guys that you make friends with. I mean, again, every stop I've made, in Charlotte, Columbia, Greenville, up here in DC, I've made good friends.
Yep.
And each time it gave me a chance to build relationships. Going to Greenville, I didn't know Butch Setzer and Lynn Moore, but they were playing rugby there. I mean, we're thick as thieves. And John was there at the time. John was president of the club. And, his playing days were coming to an end. And again, he's switching over to Furman. But we did a lot of stuff. And it's just, these guys, I think you're a little short-sighted. You don't know when you're young. But John gives you that vision. And, and I'll just leave you this story real quick. And John probably doesn't know this story, but 9/11 hits on a Tuesday. And I was coaching at Furman. The whole U.S. shuts down, including rugby practice at Furman.
Right.
It comes to Thursday. John gets a hold of me and says, I'm thinking about canceling practice, or I'm thinking about having practice tonight. What do you think? I said, it's a mistake. You shouldn't have practice right now. Nobody knows what they're doing. The world's in turmoil. The U.S. is in turmoil right now. He said, no, I think it'd be good. Get the guys out there, run around a little bit. Might be good for them. I'm like, and he and I went back and forth on this. I show up at practice. The initial drill, like they're stretching. No one's really talking. They start doing initial ball handling drills. Balls, they're dropping the balls. They're going at like half speed. But all of a sudden they pick up speed a little bit. All of a sudden they start catching the ball. They start chattering. And by the practice was over, there were 30 kids just going 120%. And I looked at John, like, all right, John, you're right again.
So John Roberts is always right.
So when he talks about a vision to these recruits, believe that he has a plan.
For sure. Yeah. There is a plan in place, and it's one of those things where we're excited to see it all unfold going forward in the future. But we love to talk about the past, and that's why we had you on here, Roger. You've been fantastic. Thank you for coming on here. This has been a pleasure. And we're going to say it's 2 words to exit the video in 3, 2, 1. Spurs.
Go Cox. Right?
Same. Go Cox.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate you. Bye.